But at least we know, we recognize some of the things, and we start applying first in our own daily lives. Because we are not going to be asked what other people do. We're not going to be asked what people in Turkey do, or what people in Syria do, or what people in Afghanistan do. Because we are here. Even the Prophet ﷺ was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, تلك أمة قد خلت لها ما كسبت ولكم ما كسبتم ولا تسألون عما كانوا يفعلون. That is a nation that has passed already, referring to the previous nations. That is a nation that has passed already. So in other words, do not keep talking about their stories and about, don't be concerned too much about what happened. Learn your lessons from it, but don't be too over concerned. لها ما كسبت. Whatever they earned, they earned. وَلَكُمْ مَا كَسَبْتُمْ. And you have your own deeds. You have your own deeds. So your deeds with their deeds, they don't mix. Therefore, look after your own selves. وَلَا تُسَلُونَ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. And you will not be questioned for what they used to do. This is a beautiful verse that is repeated in many places in the Quran, not only in one place. So therefore, brothers and sisters, the first thing is that we have to understand is that the Muslim world is actually bleeding all over. And this is very everybody knows through the news that the Muslim world is bleeding all over the places. The massacres of Bosnia in the early 90s. We're talking about over 250,000 people murdered. And we're talking about Muslims mainly. Majority of them Muslims in Bosnia. Later on it was followed with Albanians in Kosovo. You had 35,000 who were eliminated, massacred by the hands of the Serbs. Iraq, nowadays, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people, probably over 1 million people. In Syria, over 250,000 people. In Palestine, you know very well, last 5-6 months ago, and the year before that, and 2-3 years before that. In Burma too, over 250,000 people already massacred in the last 4 or 5 years. So, you know the picture. I don't want to go more into details of that, but we are aware of this. We are aware of what's happening to the Muslim world right now. Now, a lot of people, they choose to blame. They point the finger. They say it is his fault. It is this person's fault. And a lot of people make mistakes when they direct, when they point the finger, without realizing that when you point the finger like this, one is going this way, but you have all the other 4 facing you this way. So before you judge, before you start, first you have to really understand what's happening. And look at our own conditions. One of the important things is that our ummah needs to come to understand is the comprehension, the level of comprehension. Not having the right comprehension and implementation of the Islamic values as are introduced to the Prophet ﷺ can lead this ummah to a destruction. Not having the right comprehension and implementation of what you understand from religion can lead this ummah to destruction. In the Quran it says, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Let there be among you an ummah that is going to command the others to do good and prevent others from doing wrong. This is one of the important things that our ummah is known for. Enjoying what is good and forbidding what is wrong. Nowadays, unfortunately, we do not have that tool in our hands. We do not have that power in our hands. But this is what the Quran is telling us. And then the Quran, it says in a different place where He addresses, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the Muslims at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when they were kind of, some of them were kind of lazy to participate in different fightings at that time. The Quran says, أَرَضِيتُمْ بِالْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا مِنَ الْآخِرَةِ فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. Are you pleased with the short lifespan of this world? So the dunya is mesmerizing you, you're going crazy after this dunya? أَرَضِيتُمْ بِالْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيا. Are you so pleased with the life of this world compared to the akhirah? فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. So the lifespan of this world, this dunya, compared to the akhirah, to the hereafter, is none but very little. So it starts from there. It's not, why am I emphasizing on this? Because yes, we do have a lot of religious people. Yes, we do have people who pray and all that. But majority of them are out there, not in the masajids. Majority of them are not informed about the true teachings. Yes, they believe they're Muslims, but truly, there is no connection between what Islam is teaching. There is no connection between the akhirah and this world. A lot of them, they are about this world, and they think that their purpose is here, and that's it. That's where it ends. A lot of people, they're not able to distinguish. Religion for them is something separate, and the livelihood is something different. And the beauty of Islam is to merge between this livelihood and the ibadat and the acts of worship. So if you are able, for example, I'll give you an example. If you are able to do something good, like for example, let's say work, right? A lot of people would go to work and the main intention is to earn some money so they can provide for their family, and that's where it ends. Or make some money so they can buy a house, make some money they can buy a car, and that's where it ends. Now we got a problem there because there is no flavor of Islam in that action. Yes, he is working, but instead of just working, putting his effort for that he can use that, he can utilize that time by having the right intention. By saying, you know what, yes, I am working, I am making money in order to have a big house or to have a car or whatever. But you know what, I am providing, I recognize the fact that by working, I'm going to provide food for my children and for my wife. By working, I'm going to be able to provide some for my community. The poor people in my community are going to benefit from the salary that I'm going to get. The masjid is going to benefit. The school is going to benefit. So having the right intention and keeping these things in mind is going to make that work that you do, that simple task that you may think has no rewards in it, you're going to turn that into being an act of worship. You're going to turn that into being an ibadah. And that's what we're lacking in. We're not able to bridge between ibadah and these other acts, to bridge between them so we can benefit. What do? We separate them. This is different. Work is different. So when I go to work, I behave like a typical John Doe, like Mike, and like many other people that I have around me. And if they lie, I will lie. It is okay. Because this is not related to Islam. That's a mentality. If I'm going to talk to non-Muslim friends, I can curse, that's fine, as long as I don't have my brother here around with me, my masjid brother. I can curse, no problem. I can use the same language that they're using. Why? Because this is different from ibadah. See, having the right understanding, comprehension, that ibadah is not only applicable in these worlds right here. As a matter of fact, ibadah to be applicable in these worlds, it is very easy. But the hardest part is to take the ibadah and to apply that in our daily life. And if we're able to succeed there, we have truly succeeded. That's the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we find in his life. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ. Indeed, you have the greatest, the best example in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it doesn't say only when Prophet is sitting in his masjid. No, he was unique. Subhanallah, he had a unique character from different points of view, from different angles. He was universal in his application of Islamic values. In his daily life, wherever he was a Muslim. He was not a part-time Muslim. Wherever he was a Muslim. And as a result of applying these values, from different aspects and different angles throughout his life, it made him to be the best human that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. That's what we need to do as well, brothers and sisters. This is the first thing that must be understood very well. Now, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, نحن قوم أعزنا الله سبحانه وتعالى بالإسلام فإن ابتغينا غير الإسلام فإن ابتغينا العزة بغيره أذلنا الله. We are a nation, he said. We are people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has raised us up because of Islam. It is so true. Think about it. 1400 years ago, in the Arabian Peninsula, in a desert, in a place where civilization was very low at that time, where the ignorance, it was in the highest peak. And we all agree with this, right? They were killing their own daughters alive. What else do you want? A woman would choose among the men who was the father. She would just point, she would point, this is the man, this is the one that I choose, he's the father, and that's it. Because she had so many partners. I mean, it was a degradation of that society. Morals were down. So now all of a sudden Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes. But he comes with whom? He doesn't come with angels and having these, I mean, he had angels, but he is not coming with angels and leading that society with angels where the other people are looking at the angels and are saying, Amanna wa sadaqna, we saw Jibreel doing it that way, we're going to do it that way too. No. There was no angels visible to this society. It was only one man. Only one man. And that man had around him very few people. You can count with hands. And those very few people changed the entire world within 25 years. Only a few people it took to change the whole world in a very short period of time. In 2-3 decades. They fought with the Persian Empire. They fought with the Byzantines at that time. They fought with all the major Arab tribes. And they were victorious. What made them be victorious? Nothing else but Islam. Nothing else but Islam. The true comprehension of Islam. The true application of Islam. Full-time Muslims. That's all what it took. And they reach a point where Muslims at the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, that is considered sometimes the fifth Khalifa, they reached a time when Muslims were so rich, they had so much money, that they did not know where to send their zakat. They did not know, there was no person who needed zakat at that time. And you know what they decided to do? They decided to purchase seeds, wheat, and other kinds of seeds. And they took the seeds and they spread them on top of the hills and the mountains. Why? So the birds, they can eat from the zakat of the believers. The birds, they benefited from the charity of the Muslims during the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. So you're talking about people of value. You're talking about people who implemented the religion. Full-time Muslims, as I mentioned. Now, besides having the right understanding, the true comprehension, and I cannot go over this lecture, I cannot go over the details of what we should have right understanding, but I will just mention to you one important thing that we find people lack in this. It is the dogmatic mindset that a lot of times within our communities will not enable us to advance. Dogmatic mindset. In other words, my way or highway. For example, we have brothers who are reading hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they're saying Rasulullah said 1, 2, 3. And we have to apply that exactly as we read it in the hadith. Now sometimes when you have no background education in Islamic studies, taking things straight the way how you see them, you can make mistakes. Scholars will tell you this, that if you take things just the way how you see, without taking into consideration the reason why it was revealed, the time when it was revealed, taking that within the context, not out of the context. There is a lot of metaphorism too in the Arabic language, and the Prophet used that too. It's even in the Quran. There's a lot of majaz. You study these things in usul al-fiqh or usul al-tafsir. You have all of these things present there. So if you do not have the right tools, if you don't have the right tools of understanding that particular hadith, instead of doing the right thing, you can do the wrong thing. But because of not having those tools, and that's all you know, and you implemented what you just saw, inshallah you will get the reward. Inshallah you will get the reward. However, the moment you take that and you start telling to all the other people, you have to do exactly the same way as I do, because I have seen it being written this way, and this is the only right way, then we are dividing the communities. We are dividing the communities. Because you need to have those tools in order to interpret the word of Allah, in order to interpret the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You need to have the knowledge background. You need to study. Our scholars, they studied for years and years and years. Nowadays we have young people, they read a book, Sahih Bukhari, mashallah, I'm an alim already. This is a problematic issue in all over the Muslim world. You know, and they're telling the others, this is wrong, I'm right, my way or highway. One of the students of Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, the Imam of Medina, the Imam of Hijrah, the Imam of Medina, who had so many, even Imam Abu Hanifa, he attended his gatherings, even though Imam Abu Hanifa was Imam al-Azam. Still, out of respect and all of that, being the Imam of Medina, he attended the gatherings of ilm with Imam Malik. So long story short, he had a student from Egypt. And this student of his from Egypt, he said, he's the one who brought the Malikiyya madhab in Egypt and in places around there, in Sudan and some other places. He said that I studied with Imam Malik for 20 years, ilm. I mean, I studied under Imam Malik for 20 years, he said. Take off that part, I studied under Imam Malik for 20 years. And 18 years of my studies were based on adab wal akhlaq, were based on manners and ethics. Manners and ethics. 18 years. And then the last 2 years were based on deep knowledge. And he says, I wish that I would spend those 2 years too in manners and ethics. Now you can compare the traditional scholars. That's why they had success. You know, because they were completed, they were rounded up. They were not, you know, learning something and then claiming that they are the masters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah guide, you know, all the youth and guide everybody, you know, all of us inshallah, and give the right comprehension, the right understanding to those. But that is something that we have to highlight because it is a problematic issue. It is a problematic issue. And because of this understanding you have in many countries around the world, including Iraq, including Syria, you have a lot of problems because of this way of understanding things. قال الله قال الرسول. This is how he said, this is how he said. There's no background after, there's no using the mantiq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the logic to the people. This is a great gift. You know, there's no use of that. So therefore you see a lot of problems here and there. Another big problem that we also see is the division. As a matter of fact, this is the root problem. Wrong understanding, wrong comprehension of faith. That is the root cause. But then these are all subcategories of this root problem. And the first subcategory that I'm mentioning here is the division. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam very clearly stated in his hadith that al-furqa adab. Separation, division, it is punishment. Division, to be divided, it is punishment. And we're suffering those consequences nowadays. You have divisions in nationality, where a brother who belongs to a certain country says, I come from a country that has more culture. It is more diversified. It is older, it has more history. We have more ulama there. Go back again to that. تِلْكَ أُمَّةٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ لَهَا مَا كَسَبَتْ وَلَكُمْ مَا كَسَبْتُمْ. That's a nation that has passed already. Don't keep talking to me about your father and your grandfather. They have passed already. There are so many people. My father used to be, my grandfather used to be the imam and the shaykh. What are you, brother? Sister, what are you? Leave alone your grandfather. You, what are you? Leave. You come from a certain country. Leave that. You're here. Don't make that as something that is going to cause a problem and distance you from the rest of the community. Simply because you have that pride. And you know what? Wallahi, this is what those who wanted to destroy the Islamic world, this is what they started with nationalism. And I'm not against, personally, I'm not against being proud of being a Pakistani, being an Indian, being an Albanian, being an Arab, being a Turkish. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created you from that country with certain ethics, with certain traditions, adat. Even Islam, even fiqh, in the fiqh, when you study usul fiqh, recognizes that the adat of a certain place. And as long as they do not go against the teachings of Islam, it takes that into consideration. And sometimes because of the adat in a certain place, things that are not clearly in Islam either haram or halal, because of the tradition they are sometimes allowed. Because they do not reject any law openly. There is no rejection. So therefore it can be taken, even though it may not exist in a different country. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. But however, that should not be the cause of you feeling above the other people simply because you belong to a certain culture, or you speak a certain language, or you have a skin color that you show off in front of the others. This should never be the case. However, this is present in the Muslim world nowadays, unfortunately. And I don't have to start mentioning names of countries where you go to and you start feeling like not second-class citizen, but like third-class citizen. And that is really bad. 100 years ago, less than 100, there was no borders in the Muslim world. You would go from one place all the way to, you would go from, let's say, Europe, Albania, all the way to India or other places. Our ulama, our shuyukh, used to speak Urdu. They used to speak, of course, Arabic and of course Turkish because they were closer to them. But they used to speak Urdu. They used to speak Farsi. They considered this as a part of their adabiyat, as a part of their, being well educated, being rounded up. I mean, imagine now the distance. Nowadays, if you go back in my country, nobody even knows what Urdu is. You say, well, I mean, they will know. Some people, they will know, but you talk to the public, they will say, what is it? So, lack of knowledge, lack of... In my own language, we have so many words that are very similar to Turkish, similar to Arabic, similar to Urdu, similar to Farsi. Where did these all come from? These came as a result of unification, of Muslims being united. They did not distinguish themselves because of their races and because of their countries where they came from. I have thousands of words in my own language from Arabic and from Urdu and Farsi and Turkish and all. They have so many. And I know that Arabs too, they have so many from Turkish. Turks, they have so many words from Arabic. This shows, as I mentioned to you, this unity of the people back in the days. So now this is my question, if they were able to do this years ago, hundreds of years ago, they had no internet, they had no TV, they had no airplanes, how did they achieve this? How did they have this unity? And we live in this diverse world where internet is with us everywhere we go. The world has become so small, we have it in our palms. How did we become so isolated and so separated from the rest of the people? And the Quran clearly says, and you'll hear this verse often in the Jumu'ah prayers, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. All you people, Allah addresses to all the people, not only to Muslims, but to all the people. We have created you from a single male and female and placed you in tribes and nations لتعارفوا, so you can get to learn from one another, learn from the experiences from one another. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. This is where this ayah takes that beauty. This is where the ayah takes the beauty. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُم. This has a deep meaning right there. The most honorable of you, the most honorable of you is the one who is the most pious person, the most devoted person. That is the best one of you. So leave aside anything else. If you have that, then you got the right thing. If you have the taqwa, then you have everything you need. That's what distinguishes you. Even though you might have that, it does not open the doors for you to tell to the others that no, because nobody knows except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the hearts. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, before he passed away in his last sermon, he said, لا فرق بين عربي ولا أعجمي ولا أبيض ولا أسود إلا بالتقوى. There is no distinguishment between an Arab and a non-Arab. No difference between a white person and a black person, except in righteousness. So what the Prophet ﷺ is doing is interpreting what he is being inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the Quran. So he's interpreting the verse of the Quran. He is emphasizing again on the taqwa through this one. Another third dimension, beside the comprehension, having the right comprehension, and also division. Another problematic issue is the heedlessness, ghafla. Ghafla is heedlessness. Ghafla, in other words, to make it simple, to explain very in simple words, is unawareness. Unawareness. For example, you know that there is something happening right there outside in the street, there is an accident, you see it, but you say, you know what, it's not my business, so I'm just gonna, whether somebody is close to dying there, or somebody needs assistance from you or something, just leave that. I see it, I'm just passing. That's called carelessness sometimes. In other words, carelessness, heedlessness, ghafla. And we are warned in the Quran in so many verses of not being ghafil, from the ghafilin, from people of heedlessness. And unfortunately nowadays, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of Muslims who are in heedlessness. There's a lot of things happening. I was sitting with a Muslim one day. He was saying, I mean, there was a war happening 3-4 years ago, in 2010, now it's five years ago. In Palestine, there were people being killed, children being murdered. He said, this is not our, we are far away from Palestine here, so it's not our concern. It's not your concern? How can a mouth of the Muslim say words like that? Heedlessness. That's what I'm saying, they're all about themselves, all about their own world, all kind of isolated, and that's it, that's all what it matters. And the scholars, and there's a lot of them who are heedless about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. The true Muslim is a sensible Muslim. The true Muslim is a sensible Muslim. He cares. He cares about people around him. He cares about the neighbors around him. He cares about non-Muslims who are around him. He cares about the workers that he works with, the co-workers. He cares even about animals. He cares about the trees. He cares about this, the nature. Go and look at the Muslim world. Go and look the way how we treat the nature. We have no consideration at all about the nature. And the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he advises us and he says, if you know that the day of judgment is coming, and you have the ability to plant a tree, then do that. Even if you know that the day of judgment is approaching, plant the tree. So there's emphasis about nature because this is what actually preserves us as well as human beings. If we don't preserve, a lot of Muslims, this is not our concern nowadays, we have other things. But this is one of the main concerns. The pollution that's happening nowadays in the world. This is killing people, damaging their health. It's a main concern. Back in the days during the time of the Prophet, this was not a main concern. Still Prophet emphasized in nurturing and preserving the nature. But nowadays in the 21st century, this is one of the main things that Muslims should volunteer out there. Muslims should stand up and, they should be against all of these destructive forces of pollution that are causing animals and even humans to lose life. And there are so many things like pollution nowadays. But, heedlessness, it's really dangerous. Scholars, they say that death is better, being dead is better than being instead of ghafla. Allah. Being dead is better than being in the state of ghafla. Do you know why? Because when a person is dead, He already sees the truth. He already witnesses what's happening. The angels are coming to him, asking him questions. He's already a part of the reality of the next world. He doesn't need you and me to explain anything. He doesn't need conviction because he already sees what's happening. But us, even though we have the ability, we have the mind, and we're living here, we're just ignoring that. We're ignoring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're ignoring all of these things that are around us. So that's worse than being in the state of, being in the state of heedlessness is worse according to scholars. It is worse than being in the state of death. This situation, brothers and sisters, brings in our communities three categories. Ghafla, heedlessness. The first category is the category of the Muslims who are completely isolated. This is my Jama'ah. These are my people. These are the people that I do the prayers with. This is it. This is my concern. That's it. There's no going out of the circle. Nowadays we have so many of them. We hear people saying, brother, we just approach these brothers here, we're even in the masjid, we give salam, they don't even return the salam back. Because they have their own circle, they have their own group. Let alone talking to non-Muslims. Let alone trying to do some da'wah out there, or trying to be positive for the society they live in. Completely isolated. That is a big problem. This is not how Islam came. This is not the purpose of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, in a hadith that is narrated by even Majah and many other narrators of hadith, he says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, al-mu'min, the believer who mixes with people, yukhalit ma'an nas, the believer who mixes up with people is better than the believer. The believer who mixes up with people and he is patient. He's patient. Is better than a believer who does not mix with others and who has no reason to show any sign of patience. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is emphasizing to be a part of the society, even with non-Muslims. Because that is our job, to explain to them, to educate, to tell them about our own faith, about what we believe in. These are the words of Prophet. So these are very important words that we must recognize and, put that into application, inshallah. The second category of Muslims, you have those Muslims who are completely lost. They are assimilated. They live in the society, they don't even know, they know themselves they're Muslims, but there's no connection between them and Islam at all. And this is another problematic part of our community that we need to work with. And, they're not positive for the Ummah. They don't play a positive role for the Ummah. Just like these isolated Muslims do not play a positive role, these assimilated Muslims do not play a positive role either. And there is the third category of the Muslims are those who are balanced. They are balanced. They do not give up their values because they are sitting around with non-Muslims. Yes, they hang around with them. They work with them. They talk to them. They go to them, visits and all that. However, they do not give up their own values. They preserve their Islamic values. And this is what makes those non-Muslims admire about the Muslims. And they say, you know what? I know Ahmed. I know Muhammad. He is a true man. When the time comes for prayer, he is praying. He puts his head right in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the ground there. However, when it comes to talk to us, man, he is such a good man. Now, he's a cool guy. She's an honorable woman. She is good to be around. So this is the true representation of Islam, the true representation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's message. This is what we have to fall under this category of those Muslims who are balanced by not giving up their own core Islamic values. And in the end, brothers and sisters, I will talk about the last category, And that is the category of the Muslims who fall under formality versus spirituality. Very important. Formality versus spirituality. They do perform the prayer. And mashallah, some of the Muslims 5 daily prayers. They do go to Kaaba to perform Hajj. They do give zakat. They do fast. However, there is no connection between their spirituality and the formality that they're doing. In other words, they are performing the prayer, but their prayer, it is like a parrot. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen by lisan, by the tongue, but not by the qalb, not by the heart. This is one of the main problems that we face. We teach our children Quran, mashallah, they're hafiz of Quran. In all the communities we have huffaz. But when you ask a lot of these huffaz about, can you explain to me what this verse talks about? Or how do you apply this verse in your daily life? He will give up, he will say, you know what? I just learned how to read it, bro. I just memorized it, and that was my. So there is no connection, or you see people praying, you can tell just the way how they're praying. So what I'm emphasizing is that we need to balance between the formalities and the spiritualities. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not tell us to perform the prayer without elevating our hearts. There is no reason for you to stand up and go in ruku and go in sajda without being spiritually elevated. When you are standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are reciting the verses of the Quran, you recognize at that moment that you are having a conversation with your Creator. You're saying, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, and Allah is answering you back right away. Praise be to God, the Lord of the worlds. Majjadani abdi. My servant is honoring, my servant is exalting me. My servant is doing this. And then, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هَذَا بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ عَبْدِي فَلِعَبْدِي مَا سَأَلْ. This is between me and my servant. Let my servant have whatever he wants. إِهْدِنَا الصِّرَاطَ الْمُسْتَقِيمَ. Oh Allah, this is what I want. إِهْدِنَا الصِّرَاطَ الْمُسْتَقِيمَ. Guide me on the straight path. صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, the path of those who you are pleased with. مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ. Guide us on that path. Wallah. Not on the path of those who did wrongs and mischief and all that, and who went astray. So you're asking Allah subhanahu, and you're feeling this in your heart. You're having this conversation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He sees that you have that in your heart, and you are speaking to Him from your heart, and not only from your lip, that's the time when He answers you. That's the time when you receive the blessings and the answers from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, the lip language, just by Alhamdulillah, you're just saying it out of your word. There's no weight. It's like air. You need to get this involved. When you're going to sajda, you're doing something unique. You are going in sajda, and you are imagining at that point that you are zero in front of your Creator. And your body shape that takes at that time when you are in sajda, it looks like a zero. And it reminds you about death at the same time. That you are going to die. And you are also connected to the place where your body is going to be returned. You already have your forehead and all the limbs of your body connected to the ground. All the limbs at that point. So where is the kibr? Where is the pride at that time? What is there? Is there pride, or is there humbleness that is being increased? It is humbleness. So humbleness is related to what? It's related to your spirituality. So you are being uplifted by having this humbleness in your heart. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is answering you, is elevating you, and is honoring you. And I will conclude with these two verses from the Quran, where Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Ibrahim alayhi salam, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. It will be a day, he's referring to the day of judgment, it will be a day where the mal, the money, the dollars, castles, houses, cars, bank accounts, 401k, all of that stuff, لا ينفع مال. It's not going to matter at this day. Okay, Allah, mal is not going to matter. وَلَا بَنُونَ, he says, not even your children. You consider your children to be قُرَّةُ أَعْيُنٍ, to be the light of your eyes. No, he says, not even the children. Allah, then what is going to matter that day then? What? إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. The sound heart is what's going to matter that day. So accept the one who comes to me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, with a sound heart. That's what I look at that day. I don't look at the wealth. I don't look at the houses. I don't look at, not even your children. Because Arabs back in the days, they used to be so proud, having so many boys and so many children, pride, big tribe and all that. No, nothing. Equal all of these things to zero. What I care is about your heart. How is your heart? And then in a different verse also the Quran talks about this one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the condition of previous nations. Conditions of previous nations. That they used to have, problems, they rejected their prophets and they received punishments because of that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ أَوْ أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ. Indeed, he says, in the example of these previous generations, when you see these civilizations that were punished and all that, you indeed have the dhikra. You are reminded. You're reminded for whom? لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ. The one who has heart. The one who possesses heart. He is reminded about that. أَوْ أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ. Or the one who gives ears. وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ. And he is a witness of that. So we see through many verses, and I just mentioned to you 2 verses, and we know that Quran is full of emphasis on the heart. Tazkiyatun nafs, our scholars, they talked a lot. They wrote so many books about the purification of the soul, purification of the heart. Why? Because at the end, this is what matters, brothers and sisters. At the end, when we are in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what matters. I pray to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu to, inshallah, to better our conditions. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you all the blessings in this world and in the hereafter. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ رَبِّ اجْعَلْنِي